What if I told you that becoming financially confident doesn't start at $1 million? It starts at just 20,000. Most people believe wealth begins when you buy a luxury house, drive an expensive car, or finally earn a six-figure salary. But that's not how money actually works. There's one financial milestone that quietly changes the way you think, the way you make decisions, and even the opportunities that appear in your life. Once you cross it, money stops controlling you and starts working for you. Today, I'm going to show you why $20,000 is the first real turning point in building wealth, and why almost nobody talks about it. Most people spend years chasing the wrong financial goal. They believe they'll finally feel secure when they make six figures, or when their investments reach $1 million. But that's a dangerous misconception. Wealth doesn't begin with a massive fortune. It begins the moment you stop living in constant financial fear. Think about it. Imagine checking your bank account without feeling anxious. Imagine knowing that one unexpected bill won't destroy your entire month. That feeling doesn't come from being rich. It comes from building your first real financial foundation. And for millions of people, that foundation is right around $20,000. That's where everything begins to change. Think of your financial journey like pushing a massive boulder uphill. In the beginning, every step feels exhausting. You work hard, you save what you can, yet it barely feels like you're making progress. One unexpected expense, a medical bill, a broken car, even a small emergency can push you all the way back down the hill. That's exactly how most people experience money. They aren't lazy. They aren't bad with finances. They're simply fighting gravity without enough momentum. But something incredible happens once you reach your first major financial milestone. Suddenly, every dollar you've already saved starts helping you push. The climb becomes easier. The progress becomes faster. And before you realize it, your money begins creating momentum instead of resistance. That's the invisible shift that makes $20,000 so powerful. Here's where most people think the story is about money, but it isn't. The biggest transformation after saving your first $20,000 doesn't happen inside your bank account. It happens inside your mind. Before reaching this point, almost every financial decision is driven by one emotion: fear. Fear of losing your job. Fear of an unexpected bill. Fear of saying no because you can't afford the consequences. Your brain becomes obsessed with surviving today instead of preparing for tomorrow. But once you build a solid financial cushion, that constant background stress begins to disappear. For the first time, you stop asking, "How do I survive this month?" and start asking, "How do I build my future?" That single change in thinking is worth far more than the money itself. This isn't just a feeling. It's backed by real psychology. Researchers have found that even a relatively small emergency fund dramatically changes the way people think and make financial decisions. When you know you have money set aside, you stop reacting to every unexpected expense like it's a disaster. Instead of living in constant uncertainty, you begin making decisions with confidence. That's why building an emergency fund isn't really about the money. It's about buying peace of mind. And once that peace becomes your new normal, your brain finally has the freedom to think about investing, growing your income, and creating wealth instead of constantly protecting yourself from the next emergency. That's why the first $20,000 changes far more than your bank balance. It changes the way you see your entire financial future. Now let's look at the numbers, because this is where things become truly fascinating. Imagine you're investing $1,000 every single month into a simple index fund, earning an average annual return of 8%. Reaching your first $20,000 takes patience. Month after month, you're doing almost all of the work. Your investments barely seem to grow. It can feel like you're climbing a mountain with no end in sight. But then something remarkable happens. Your money starts generating its own returns. Those returns begin earning returns of their own. Suddenly, you aren't building wealth alone anymore. Your money has become your partner. And from this point forward, every new milestone arrives faster than the one before it. Here's the part that surprises almost everyone. Saving your first $20,000 is usually the hardest milestone you'll ever reach. Not because the next $20,000 requires less discipline, but because you finally have something working alongside you. Imagine two people. Both invest $1,000 every month. The first person is starting from zero. Every dollar of progress depends entirely on their paycheck. The second person has already saved $20,000. While they're adding the same $1,000 each month, their investments are quietly growing in the background. They're earning money simply because they already own money. That's why the second $20,000 often arrives much sooner than the first. The effort stays almost the same, but the results begin accelerating. Now, imagine repeating this process over the next several years. At first, you're the one building your wealth, but eventually, your wealth starts building itself. Every dollar you invest earns a return. Then, those returns begin earning returns of their own. That's the incredible power of compound growth. It doesn't feel dramatic in the beginning. In fact, most people quit before they ever experience it. But those who stay consistent reach a point where their investments generate more money each year than they could ever save from their paycheck alone. That's the moment financial momentum becomes almost unstoppable. The hardest work isn't growing your money. It's staying patient long enough to let time do its job. This is the moment when most people finally understand a simple truth. The rich don't have different money. They simply have more money working for them. Imagine two investors. Both earn the exact same 8% annual return. One has $2,000 invested. The other has $20,000. They use the same investment strategy, the same index funds, the same amount of patience, the same amount of risk. Yet after 1 year, one investor earns only a few $100s. The other earns thousands. Not because they're smarter, not because they discovered a secret investment, but because every percentage point is now working on a much larger foundation. That's when investing finally starts to feel rewarding instead of frustrating. But here's the lesson that almost everyone misses. By the time you've saved your first $20,000, you haven't just built a savings account. You've built a completely different version of yourself. Think about everything it took to reach that milestone. Saying no to unnecessary purchases, staying consistent month after month, investing instead of spending, delaying gratification while everyone else was chasing instant pleasure. Those aren't just financial decisions, they're identity changes. You stop thinking like someone trying to survive and start thinking like someone preparing for the next decade. Because wealth isn't created by one lucky investment. It's created by thousands of disciplined decisions that nobody else ever sees. And once those habits become part of who you are, building the next $20,000 becomes dramatically easier than building the first. Here's where money starts giving you something far more valuable than dollars. It gives you options. Before building your financial cushion, every unexpected expense feels like an emergency. Your car breaks down. Your laptop suddenly stops working. A medical bill arrives out of nowhere. And instantly, your entire financial plan falls apart. But once you've built your first $20,000, those same situations feel completely different. They're still inconvenient, but they're no longer life-changing. Instead of reacting with panic, you respond with confidence. Instead of asking, how am I going to pay for this? You start asking, what's the smartest decision? And that's the moment money stops controlling your life and starts protecting it. And once fear disappears, something incredible takes its place. Opportunity. Imagine a friend invites you to invest in a promising business. A year ago, you wouldn't have even considered it. Not because it was a bad opportunity, but because you simply didn't have the financial freedom to say yes. Now imagine your company offers a professional conference in another city. It could help you earn more, build valuable connections, even change your career. Before, you would have focused on the travel costs. Now, you focus on the potential return. That's one of the biggest differences between people who stay stuck and people who continue building wealth. They don't just spend money. They invest in opportunities that create even more opportunities.
Have you ever heard the phrase, money attracts more money? At first, it sounds like one of those cliches rich people love to repeat. But it's actually much simpler than that. Money doesn't magically multiply because you're wealthy. It grows because having money gives you choices that most people never get. You can invest when others have to wait. You can negotiate instead of accepting the first offer. You can recognize opportunities and actually afford to act on them. That's why two people with the same intelligence, the same education, and even the same salary can end up living completely different financial lives. The difference isn't luck. It's having enough financial freedom to make better decisions over and over again.
But the biggest investment opportunity isn't found in the stock market. It's found in your career. Think about it. When you're living paycheck to paycheck, you don't negotiate. You don't take risks. You don't leave a toxic job. Because every paycheck feels like a lifeline. Your employer knows you need the job. And deep down, you know it too. But once you've built a financial cushion, everything changes. You begin asking for the raise you've earned. You apply for better positions. You invest in new skills. You stop making decisions out of fear and start making them based on your future. That's when your savings become more than money. They become freedom.
This is what I like to call walking away money. It's not enough money to retire. It's not enough to buy a mansion, but it's enough to give you something incredibly powerful. A choice. Imagine waking up tomorrow and realizing you don't have to stay in a job that makes you miserable. You don't have to accept disrespect, endless overtime, or a boss who takes advantage of you. Because for the first time, you have time. Time to search for a better opportunity. Time to improve your skills. Time to make decisions without desperation. That's why financial freedom doesn't begin when you become rich. It begins the moment you stop being trapped. And for many people, that journey starts with the first $20,000.
Here's something fascinating. Most people think confidence comes from personality, but in many cases, confidence comes from financial security. Imagine sitting in a salary negotiation. If missing one paycheck means falling behind on your bills, you're far more likely to accept the first offer, even if you know you're worth more. But when you've built a strong financial foundation, the conversation changes completely. You negotiate calmly. You ask for what you're truly worth. You're willing to walk away if the opportunity isn't right. And ironically, that's often when employers respect you the most, because confidence is contagious. People trust those who don't negotiate from fear. They negotiate from value. That's another invisible benefit your first $20,000 gives. But here's where many people make a huge mistake. They finally reach $20,000 and suddenly they feel rich. So they celebrate by upgrading everything: a newer car, a bigger apartment, more expensive vacations, better clothes. And before they realize it, the money that took years to save is gone. This is called lifestyle inflation. As your income grows, your spending quietly grows with it. The problem isn't enjoying your success. The problem is spending your financial freedom instead of investing it. Remember, your first $20,000 isn't the... Here's the part most people don't realize. Saving your first $20,000 is usually the hardest part of the journey. But once you reach it, the next $20,000 often comes much faster. Why? Because now your money is working alongside you. Every dollar you invest has the chance to earn more dollars. Your savings become a machine, not just a number sitting in a bank account. That's the real power of compounding. Progress begins to accelerate. And suddenly, financial goals that once seemed impossible start feeling inevitable. The hardest climb is behind you. Now, momentum is on your side. So if you're still chasing your first $20,000, don't compare yourself to people who are already years ahead. Compare yourself to who you were yesterday. Every dollar you save, every unnecessary purchase you avoid, every investment you make is another brick in your financial foundation. Wealth isn't built overnight. It's built through hundreds of small decisions, repeated consistently. Most people quit because they don't see results fast enough. But the people who eventually become financially free keep going long enough for compound growth to take over. Stay consistent. Your future self will thank you for it. So, why does everything change after your first $20,000? It's not because the number itself is magical. It's because of what that number represents. It represents security, confidence, freedom, opportunity, and momentum. It's the point where you stop living only for today's bills and start building tomorrow's wealth. Remember, every financially successful person was once exactly where you are now. They all started with one decision: to keep going. So whether you've saved $200, $2,000, or you're only getting started today, don't underestimate the power of consistent progress. Because one day, you'll look back and realize your first $20,000 didn't just change your bank account. It changed your entire life. The journey starts today.